respond. So much to go over with our next guest, our buddy from The Athletic. He's the one and only Hunter Patterson. What's up, Hunter?
What's up, y'all? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, dude. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to check this game out tonight. So we'll see how
Yeah.
it all
Ooh.
goes.
What makes you so excited about checking out tonight's game?
Deuce, you mentioned it, but the fact that the Pelicans are playing really well, BI is averaging roughly like 30 over his last 10 games. So it'll be a good matchup, I think.
Yeah, it's just a good test too, especially coming off what we saw in that Spurs game, which they've had some disappointing moments at home this year.
Mhm.
That one, I don't know. It's just one that sticks with you. And I have to imagine for that Kings team, it's got to stick with them even more because although the Spurs are known as a bad team, they've got guys who are desperate. They're trying to, get contracts in the future. They just played hard. They played tough. They played with force. If you had never watched these two teams play, you'd be like, oh, the Spurs are really awesome. This Kings team's kind of soft. And Mike Brown kind of mentioned that after the game. So I think tonight, too, is kind of about the response from the Kings.
Yeah, and I think they should be really eager to play. By now, they proved a lot this season, but I think they should play as though they have something to prove tonight. And I personally respect and think it's a great thing that Coach Mike Brown is actually challenging them after these games and almost like pleading for anyone to step up. So I think hopefully they'll answer the call on that tonight.
Yeah, and I think when you look at their last game against the Pelicans and you just see what happened in that first half, the game was going back and forth, and then it wasn't really until that second half, that third quarter, that the Kings pulled away. They outscored the Pelicans, did a much better job. I feel like we haven't seen too many games lately where they're coming out from the start. They're really punching them down right when the game starts, not making those adjustments at the half. And I get it. It's the NBA. It's a game of runs. Like teams, even if they have their G League guys or their second unit guys playing these games, those guys are trying to showcase their talents. They're working hard out there. But what do you think it's going to take for the Kings to really start the game with that type of strength?
I think being aggressive and not settling. This is such a great three-point shooting team that they can kind of like fall in love with that oftentimes. And everything is easier kind of like when you're attacking the rim. You're kind of drawing the defense in, able to kick out. So I look for them to be aggressive and while taking threes and being aware from three-point arc and everything, like I would look for them to attack the basket and be aggressive pretty early.
It's something I asked Mike Brown before last game. I was curious to get your perspective on this. Just the difference between this team at home versus the road. We're now near the end of the season. The Kings' road record is better than their home record. And then you start like looking at some of the numbers. They're number one in offensive rating at home and 29th in defense at home. Then you look at the road, they're number 3 in offensive rating and 9th in defense. That disparity is pretty crazy from the home defense compared to the road defense. Do you have any like theories or maybe things you've maybe seen from this team that would explain it?
It's an interesting kind of situation because you would assume based on the intensity at every single game at Golden One that there would be that the players would match that essentially. And I think maybe they can kind of rely on, oh, well, we know if we get down and we make a run, the crowd will kind of like pick us up a bit. So maybe that's one theory. They like relax knowing the crowd can kind of like give them a jolt of energy oftentimes. But really, when you mentioned some of the numbers too, they just don't shoot well at home. From three, I think they're like 38%, which it's not terrible, but it's not as well as they shoot on the road. So I don't know if they're just more relaxed in general and more focused on the road, but today would be a great time for them to be locked in and focused.
Yeah.
It would be because then, like we keep saying, they can build those good habits going into the postseason. But those numbers that do share do do worry me because you're like the fifth person we've asked about why those numbers are the way they are, especially defensively on their home court. And you talk about the shooting not being as great. I'm sure that has a little bit to do with defensively not getting the stops they want, not pushing the ball up, not being all in that one motion within some of their shots. Do you think maybe that has something to do with their shooting ability at home too?
Yeah, because I think oftentimes you can overthink and you miss a shot on offense, you get back on defense, and you're still in your head about that play or what you could have done better. And now you're missing a cutter to the basket, and that's a quick layup. So I think that definitely can play into it. And when you're not making shots, it's just everything is a bit more tense, and that could translate to defense as well.
I think the other thing about tonight's game that I'm eager to see is just how they deal with a Pelicans team that's got that length, right? You got Herb Jones, you got Ingram, you've got some legit size with Valanciunas, Nance, even if they throw Jackson Hayes out there sometimes. Yeah. They have a lot of guys that, Trey Murphy, a lot of length. And we've seen that bug the Kings this year. So I'm curious to see how the Kings respond to that. And I thought last game, the one thing that was disappointing for me is, De'Aaron was 0 for 8 from 3. I thought he settled a lot from downtown. And we talk about shooting threes. And to me, it's not just about the number of threes, it's about the quality of threes. Are you getting these threes off good ball movement? Are you attacking the paint? I felt like the Kings didn't do that a lot. They got to get the defense moving a little bit, but I'm also curious to see how they handle this Pelicans defense.
I agree. Like to that first point, just about struggling with more like lengthy teams, that is something that whenever I'm asked about playoff matchups, I kind of stray from those longer athletic teams. But as you mentioned, almost like 1 through 5, with the exception of Jose, who I think is injured now, but
yeah,
they're a really tall team. And we've seen that kind of hurt the Kings a bit, especially when Domas is off the floor. But Alex Len has been looking pretty formidable off the bench and able to kind of hold things down in that 5 spot. So it should be interesting to see how they match up with longer teams.
We should play Rank the Opponents with Hunter.
Yeah. We can totally play that.
Okay.
All right, so it's pretty simple. We're looking at the 4 most likely opponents for the Kings in the first round. The Clippers in the 5th spot right now. The Warriors 6. You've got the Lakers a half game out of that 6th spot. They're in 7th right now, and the Pelicans. So the Clippers, Pelicans, Warriors, and Lakers are the 4 most likely at this point. If you were to rank them 1 through 4, 1 being the team that you think would be the best matchup for Sacramento, 4 being the team that I don't want anything to do with. I'm out.
Yeah. The first team off the rip there, I would say I would be the Clippers, just because they're having a hard time staying healthy in general.
Okay.
Kawhi is playing well, but supporting cast isn't necessarily the greatest without full strength. So from there, I would go Pelicans, just because of inexperience, although they are a longer team. Then I would have to go, and this isn't because of matchups, honestly, but Lakers, I would have to put them there just because they have LeBron, a bit inconsistent. And last team I would want to play is the Warriors.
Dude, you have this same order as
I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, and I'm not super confident. It's not like I'm going, oh, it's obvious it's the Clippers 1. I think these 4 teams look, the West is just tough. It's really tough. The difference between, and I mean, you just look at the standings right now as we enter the final week of the season, when the difference between 6 and 10 is 3 games? Like that's pretty wild this time of the year. I mean, actually the difference between 5 and 10 is 3 games. So yeah, it makes it challenging to kind of figure out who would be the best matchup. And I think the Clippers, my thing with the Lakers, LeBron and AD, of course. I think the addition of Vanderbilt, they add Beasley, like they've got some intriguing depth. This is not the same Lakers team we saw at the start of the year with Westbrook.
And they look like they're feeling fresh too.
Yeah. But it all comes down to, can those guys stay healthy? Is LeBron going to stay good? Is AD going to stay all right? Which, it seems like every game he's got a scare.
Yeah.
There's always a game where I think he ruptured his Achilles. Oh, wait, he just has a scratch on his left ankle. It's just some of the reactions you see out there. So that's what makes it tough.
One of the things, though, too, even though I have the Warriors in that wouldn't want to face them position, if we're looking just at this season alone, they don't play well on the road. Yeah. Andrew Wiggins is kind of back into the fold, but who knows how long it's going to take him to be playing at that level he was last postseason. And we've seen Steph have 50 points and lose this season as well. So if we were just looking at this season alone and not counting all of their championship pedigree and everything, I would say that they do match up well with the Warriors, but you can never count them out.
Dude,
I think the thing with Steph, though,
what?
And the Warriors, it's like they're getting things together at the perfect time.
For sure.
Yeah. Steph, if he plays the rest of the games this year, ends up missing 29 games, right? How many games has Andrew Wiggins even played this year? I don't even know. I thought
he missed the last 20 or something.
But I think he was banged up a couple of times before that this year. So Andrew Wiggins this season for the Warriors has played 37 games.
Wow.
So you go, okay, well, Steph's back now. Gary Payton was not on this team to start the year. He's not only on the team, he's back and playing now.
And he knows the system.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I've clowned on their road record too, but I'm like, yeah, that's not the same team. And this is a team that's won together. They get everything together. They're going to have a shot here, and they're super dangerous. They scare the hell out of me now. And I didn't think I was going to feel that way, but I'm concerned.
That's exactly why I have them, all things considered, last on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of us, right? I think sometimes we keep going, postseason's a whole different basketball game. You got to look at experience, and the Kings don't have a lot of experience. Well, there's some guys, there's some individuals, there's coaches on this Kings, a part of this Kings organization that have that experience. But when you look at the Warriors as a whole, they know when and how to turn it on. And on top of all that, the fact that guys are back, feeling healthy, feeling good, and you're seeing in some of these ugly games, they're finding a way to either crawl back and get a win or look crisp and precise on the offensive end, even when things aren't working out. You just can't count them out until they actually die, until they actually go down. And I think that's why we all at the end have them down on our list.
Okay, but let's rank this then. We'll take out the Pelicans and Clippers because we know they're going to be near the bottom.
Okay.
Who would feel sweeter, you think, for Kings fans? If the Kings beat the Warriors or Lakers, what would be sweeter for Kings fans?
I'm going to go Lakers.
Still.
I just think that there's something about that color, everything about them that's just I think it would sting more if the Kings lost to the Lakers too. Yeah. What about you, Hunter?
I think just because of all the recent success that the Warriors have had, and there's been fun kind of back and forth, Twitter action and things. So, and just proximity, I would say Warriors just right now.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time with it. I think from a Warriors perspective, you'd be beating the defending champs.
True.
And in some ways,
that's a good point.
You might be closing the door on that team.
Ooh, you could be the one that ends their.
You just dug there. This is going to be a different team. Bob Myers could be gone. Maybe Steve Kerr goes, I don't want to do this anymore. Retires. Draymond could be. It could be the end of the Warriors as we know it. The Lakers, it's all more nostalgic. They hurt us before. The last time we were here and in a prime position, they beat us in that game 7. We hate the Lakers. So I get both sides.
Yeah.
I completely get both sides to it,
Yeah,
but
I think sometimes too, when I look at like Lakers and their fans and thinking about them being at Golden One Center, I'm like, they've got some nasty fans. Where like Golden State, you just got some bandwagoners, right? That are like, yeah, I've been following this team since Steph Curry's been leading the way. And it's like, okay, cool. So I don't know. For me, there's just like so many different angles when it comes to beating the Lakers. But either way, if it is one of those teams, I feel like you have to win that first round, right? Like for just bragging purposes, for respect, for so much
it
more.
would feel so sweet to beat one of those teams for sure. Yes. It would.
I'm under the umbrella of people who like this season as is a success, but I am also just in personal everyday life very competitive. And I know the players aren't thinking that way either. De'Aaron's they've all been vocal about wanting to be successful at the highest level. So it's interesting because I think this season is a win, but it's not going to feel as complete if they don't win a series necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I think this season it's absolutely a win, especially based on expectations, based on what Sabonis and Fox did, based on what Mike Brown has like kind of molded this team to be and change the culture. It's no doubt about it a win. And I think sometimes you do have to just go through that pain to get to the next step. You have to learn how to win. But with that said, I still think the Kings can win a series. And even if they play the Lakers or Warriors, it's this whole narrative that people they just want to see the Kings, I think is blown way out of proportion. I don't think any team's like excited to take on a team with an offense like the Kings have, with shooting and spacing, with Fox and Sabonis. But if they were to choose between that and the play-in, they'll take a series. Or if they have to choose between that and the Suns, they're taking the Kings because the Suns have players who have been there before.
Yeah.
They've got KD, they've got Booker, CP3. There's that established thing. But I don't think anyone's like, yeah, give me the Kings. That's an easy matchup at all.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the reason for saying it, I can understand. But even the way Mike has mentioned after losses, once again, I can see why teams might want to come play us. He's actively preparing his guys, I think, for kind of maybe having a little chip on their shoulder, at least being well aware that teams have said that and been vocal about it. So I think Mike will have them prepared. Hopefully they'll have a chip on their shoulder and invite teams to want to come play them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, even the way that he whenever he talks at practices after games, I feel like he's heard, the other day talking about their mentality being on the softer side of things. And I hope they do respond even on a whole different level, understanding what's at stake. Do you get that vibe? Like there's enough people, even with less postseason experience, that they are capable of responding to what he's talking about?
Yeah, I like De'Aaron's echoing his message in the post-game pressers. Like the alarm's been going off. We've got to kind of like answer the call. And I think you made a good point too about there's been a lot made about the lack of experience, but individually there are people on the team. Mike, of course, Domas has been in a 7-game series against LeBron. HB is one with the Warriors. So there are individuals on the team who could help them as a collective with that inexperience.
Do you have a prediction for Kings Pelicans tonight?
Oh,
I saw that the spread, I believe, was Pelicans -4.
Yeah.
And if I were a betting man, I would take the Kings in that situation. Just because they don't really ever get blown out often or blow teams out, it feels. So I'm expecting a close game, and with as much disappointment as they may have felt in the past couple of days, I think they'll be able to get it done.
Well, make sure. I'm excited to see how they respond, and I encourage everyone to check out the athletic Hunter Patterson, one of the up-and-coming stars in the biz. We always appreciate you hanging out, man.
I appreciate you having me. I love talking with y'all, so
thanks, Hunter.
Dude, we'll see you soon. Probably Friday against the Warriors, right? Are you going to be there?
Yeah, hopefully I'll be there, so.
All right,
cool. See you then.
Sounds good. Appreciate you so much for hanging out with us. And coming up next,